Hello again, real worlders. Okay, so welcome back to my channel. I'm Brian. This is my channel, Real World Problems. And today I want to discuss some new laws they just passed down in California, right? And you guessed it, gun laws. And they didn't just pass one, not two, but 23, right? Which I think is ridiculous. It's very confusing to the average citizen out there because, as a citizen, you're supposed to be up and up on all the laws. Well, if they keep changing them every 2 seconds, how can you keep track and how can you follow the law if you don't even know what it is, right? Because not everybody has a lawyer degree and keep up on these things every single day, right? So I just got done watching a video here, and it was on uh, Washington gun law. And this guy here, he was basically saying, California is the Death Star of civilian disarmament. So, which is pretty true, because they're basically trying their darndest to basically restrict guns. So you can't carry or do anything like that legally without following all these dumb rules, right? So let's get into it. There's a list. We'll go to the California governor's website here, and this is all the laws they just passed just yesterday or day before or something like that, which is pretty ridiculous. So you got all these laws here, and man, I mean, to read all these things, understand all these things, I mean, is pretty ridiculous, And if you go up on top here, it says Governor Newsom strengthens California's nation-leading gun safety laws. And I always think it's funny when they say, gun safety laws or it's basically just taking away your rights, as a citizen. Because, anytime, I was told a long time ago, anytime the government makes a law, they're basically taking away your freedom. You know what I mean? So a law equals negative on the freedoms, right? Because you're basically making a bargain with the government, right? Because they're supposed to protect you, and in order for them to protect you, you're giving up some of your freedoms for your safety, right? And so anytime they say safety or anything like that, you're just giving up your freedoms, right? Because before, everybody owned a gun and you could protect yourself, But now, since they're limiting gun usage, now you have to rely on the government. Well, how long does it take when you call 911 for those cops to come and save you? And if seconds or minutes count, you could be dead by the time they arrive, or if they do arrive. Because right now, I don't know about your state, but my state is really shorthanded on police officers, and good luck if they arrive in a decent time. I've heard half hour. I mean it's because it's at their discretion sometimes. If they think your situation is a priority. So if it's a domestic dispute, they might not show up for a while. So it's very interesting. So I just wanted to kind of go through a few of these. There's definitely a lot to go through, but I'm not going to go through all 23. But I'll just start out with the big ones here. So the first one I want to talk about is SB2, right? And that one is going to rewrite the concealed weapons permit requirements. So that one is basically they're going to try to make it similar to New York, right? So they're going to be like saying that you can no longer, because before, like in most states, if you want a concealed weapons permit, and the way the concealed weapons permit basically is if you want to like have a gun that's not visible, right? So if you want to put it like in your waistline or, have it in your car or something like that, that is concealed, right? So therefore you need a permit for that. Well, usually uh, if you need a permit, you just go down, pay your fine, they do a background check, and they issue you one, right? But now they're going to say, well, now you need a reason, right? And so what New York did was basically, if you're not like a celebrity or a politician or something like that, something that's really high profile that you need security, like you can prove that you have all these crazy Twitter followers that are trying to get at you, then you will those people will be allowed to maybe carry a gun. But they can say, well, you could hire, let's say if you work for a private security firm, right? So if your job requires you carrying a gun, then that could be an excuse to carry a firearm. But if you don't work for a private security, or if you're not a celebrity or anything like that, good luck. I mean, you're probably not going to get permission to own a firearm. Now, of course, there's always, open carry. You can open carry out in public, but how many people are going to carry their Berettas, on their hip like the old West, right? It's not very common, because usually people like to conceal that stuff because, otherwise people that aren't so gun savvy, they might look at that and be like, oh my gosh, that guy has a gun, and so that's why people conceal it, so people don't freak out. And yeah, so there is that. Also, there's a picture that they're basically expanding the sensitive areas, right? So before, I guess, in the sensitive area, you had to be like a celebrity, or have some reason that you could conceal carry, right? And now they're expanding the sensitive area to, guess what? The whole entire state. So yeah, that's pretty ridiculous. So you could be out in the middle of the desert somewhere, and they're saying, oh, you can't have a gun out in the middle of the desert by yourself, because you might hurt some cactus or something. Who knows? And so it's kind of interesting. And then yeah, so next I wanted to talk about AB 28. That's Assembly Bill 28. So this one is going to add an 11% sales tax on top of the sales tax already. So it's basically going to increase it to over 20% sales tax on all firearms and ammunition. And they're claiming that this tax, this excess tax, is going to go to gun violence prevention and stuff like that, which I think is a total crock, because it's a circular thing. So it's like they'll tax you, and then that money basically goes to special interest groups that try to take away your guns even more. You know what I mean? So it's just not a good thing. And to me, like here, in Washington, they basically legalize drugs here, and so they tax the hell out of them. And so when and they're claiming the taxes are supposed to go towards schools and to prevent people from doing drugs, or help them get them off drugs. Oh, do you really think the government wants these people to get off drugs? No, they want them to stay on drugs because they are addicted to that money. The government is addicted to taxes just as much as the addicts are addicted to drugs, right? They do not want that money to go away. I thought it was hilarious when they just first legalized marijuana here in Washington, and the government was, raking in all this money, and then somebody was claiming that that was illegal. They can't sell drugs in Washington, and Washington started freaking out because they were like, well, we need that money. We're gonna go bankrupt if we don't have that drug money, right? And it's just so sad. I mean, it's very sad that they're basically drugging our citizens to get more money in their pockets. So it's and then and also too, this is basically to price the individuals out of their guns. So they were actually talking about. So I was surprised they only went with an 11% additional tax, right? So 20% sales tax. They were talking about doing something like 1,000% sales tax on guns. So if a gun cost you, $300, normally, now that gun's going to cost you $3,000, and so that would price out 99% of the people out of guns, because who can afford a $3,000 cheap gun that might even fail on you. And so, and they're calling it a modern day poll tax. So basically, there's pricing people out of stuff. So even though it's still legal to own a gun, but if no one can afford it, you're pretty much screwed, right? So next is AB 1089, right? So this one is pretty interesting. So this one, they're trying to outlaw 3D printed guns, and but what's the slippery slope on this one is they're also outlawing the 3D printers. So if you own a 3D printer right now, just for recreational whatever, like some people like to make 3D printed stuff for their businesses. Yeah, now they're gonna try to make that illegal. So because they're saying that all 3D printers are bad, and so I would definitely keep an eye on this one. This one is definitely a bad bill because it's just too broad. They can make this expand to whatever they want. And so it's really bad. Okay, so next is Assembly Bill 1598. This one is about safety cards. And basically, what they're trying to do is they're requiring extra training when it comes to owning a gun, right? So they're saying, well, now you have to take a training class because right now you could pretty much just, as long as you pass a background check and have the money and whatever, you can go down and purchase a gun, right? As long as you're over 18 or 21 or whatever. So, but now they're saying you have to take these training courses, but they're kind of going to the extreme with these training courses because this one state, I can't remember what state it was, maybe New Jersey or something like that, they were trying to make the training courses so difficult that no one would be able to pass them. You know what I mean? So they're like John Wick type training courses, and so you're gonna have to go in there, fire, 10,000 rounds and through a course, and and for one, who can afford that? And then especially with 1,000% sales tax on your stuff, and then plus, trying to get into these classes, uh, like here in Washington, like I tried signing my kids up to a hunter safety course because they need that before they can go hunt, right? Well, good luck getting into a class. I mean, a lot of times they only offer them a few times a year, and and then they're booked out, and you try to get in one, they're all full, and so if there's no teachers teaching them, then you're pretty much screwed, right? And so it's kind of a slippery slope there. Next bill is Assembly Bill 92 and 301. So this one I thought was kind of interesting. So this one bans body armor purchases for for people who committed a felony, right? And so I kind of have mixed feelings about this one because right now, if you committed a felony, you can't purchase a firearm, right? But and so you think, oh well, yeah, let's just ban body armor as well because body armor kind of goes with guns. But really, body armor is for defensive purposes only, right? So that's, just to protect yourself. And so let's say you went to prison for something and you belong to a gang, right? And now that you got out of prison, let's say this gang members now want to get you, right? And so the minute you get out of jail, now they're going to start doing drive-bys every single day on your house. There is no way you can protect yourself from that. You know what I mean? Unless you get some body armor. And so now you basically sentence these guys to death, right? And do these guys deserve death after they already spent their time in prison? Probably not. You know what I mean? So it's I'm I don't think body armor is gonna save anybody's. Banning body armor is not going to save anybody's lives per se. I don't think. So and then AB 301 is about just innocent people like you and me just purchasing body armor. So if they catch us buying too much, then we'll be put on some sort of list, and we could be on the naughty list for body armor purchases just because you're guilty by association, which I think is terrible. They shouldn't do that. Assembly Bill 355, right? So this one here, I thought this one was really funny because it basically fixes a law that they made previously, basically banning you from handing your gun to somebody else, right? So let's say if I wanted to, because currently, if I own a firearm and I want my wife to use that firearm just for target practice or just to get some experience with it, that is illegal, right? So if we're at a range and I'm like, here, honey, here, I want you to learn how to use this gun in case you ever need to use it in a self-defense situation. That is wrong and that is illegal now. And so she would have to go out and purchase her own gun, have her own gun, and only use that one. So no crossing guns or anything like that. So what I thought was pretty funny was that law enforcement was having issues because they couldn't even train their own officers, because when they would hire cadets, they couldn't even hand them a gun to train with because it wasn't their gun. And so this law here basically fixes that. So saying that if a cadet in training could now access these guns and use them to train. But as far as you and me go, we're still not allowed, which I think is pretty messed up. And because I personally feel like if I hand my wife that rifle or handgun or something like that, that is on me if she does something with that gun, because that gun's in my name. And I don't think that, she should not be allowed to use that, because, what happens if we're in a life and death situation and, I end up getting tackled, and, I can't, access the gun, and then in that way she can access it and help save my life. And there was actually a situation, I was watching a video the other day, and I heard something about, it was I believe a 13-year-old boy helped saved his family because his mom, there was an intruder that was high on meth that came into their house, and she had a gun and was pointing it at him, but she was struggling with it. Like, I don't know if she knew how to take off the safety or what was going on, but she was choking hard, right? So she couldn't use the gun against this man. And he refused to leave. He was breaking windows. He was doing all sorts of crazy stuff. And the son grabbed the gun from the mother and shot this individual like 2 or 3 times. And basically, I think he saved his kid's a hero, and he saved his mom's life. So it's very great. So just situations like that are kind of interesting. Last one I want to talk about was Assembly Bill 1406. This one I thought was kind of crazy because it was basically allowing more time to do background checks. And this one here, I think, is a slippery slope because as of right now, when you get a background check, they're so backlogged. It's a lot of times, sometimes it takes a month, maybe 2 months to get a background check cleared. And and so now they're saying they want more time, right? Well, how much more time do they need? I mean, they could take, 6 months, a year, so it could be infinity, and so so even though you purchased a gun, it has to sit there at the store until this background check clears, right? Well, if that background check never clears, you never get to get that gun. So it's basically taking away your rights, to purchase these guns and to possess them. Again, tell me how you feel down below. Make sure to subscribe, like, share this video if you like it, and